explain why he says what he says.
Dave Lewis heard from another officer about McNamara's dealings with the Sixth Fleet.
I'm Admiral Larry Geis, the commander of Task Force 60.
He was very upset. He told me he knew it was going to be hushed up, and I wasn't to say anything about it, but he had to get it off his chest. That he had sent aircraft and notified Washington, obviously via the Criticom network, because it got to Bob McNamara and Lyndon Johnson, and he had the aircraft recalled by Robert McNamara. He said he reconfigured a flight of aircraft with aircraft incapable of carrying nuclear weaponry and relaunched it. He again notified Washington. Again, Robert McNamara ordered the aircraft recalled. He challenged the order, and Lyndon Johnson came on. Said he didn't give a damn if the ship sunk. He would not embarrass his allies.
Robert McNamara has never fully discussed his role in the Liberty controversy.
You recalled planes sent to rescue the Liberty.
I'm absolutely certain that's false.
You didn't send a signal to the Sixth Fleet?
Absolutely not. I don't know what the hell happened, and I haven't taken time to find out. But there are all of these claims that we sent planes, the planes were going out, and then we turned them around, and that we intentionally allowed the Israelis to sink the Liberty. I know nothing about it.
While the Sixth Fleet was launching and recalling its aircraft, the Liberty was still under attack by the Israeli torpedo boats.
You could see these machine gun bullets going through and ricocheting off all the metal that was down there. And actually, some were going into the boiler. They're trying to explode the boiler, and they knew what they were doing.
We basically were dead in the water. The word came down, prepare to abandon ship. That meant prepare only, go up and get ready, get near the life rafts. Well, I went up first, popped the hatch, looked out for the life rafts.
You always wanted to live in Israel?
They were either gone or burning.
What?
And
you always wanted to live in Israel?
To the stern of the ship, and I saw one of the torpedo boats methodically machine gunning one of our life rafts that had floated back. We cut the life rafts loose because they were burning or had been damaged. And they floated back behind us.
Let's live in Israel and take Sparky with us.
The life raft.
What? Let's take Sparky with us.
Had there been anyone in there, they certainly wouldn't be alive.
It's a violent country.
It happened so fast, it didn't seem real.
I think so, too.
None of the attacks seemed real to me. I was bewildered. I couldn't understand why they would do it to us. I just didn't understand a thing at that point.
I think it's more peaceful here, huh?
They just died.
What?
More peaceful here, huh?
What?
More peaceful.
Yes, more peaceful here.
The assault was over, but the cover-up was about to begin. At 4 o'clock, the American naval attaché in Tel Aviv heard from the Defense Ministry that a ship had been attacked, in error. The American embassy immediately reported back to the State Department in Washington.
I was the first one that got
You
the word.
sure to like documentaries.
And, my immediate reaction was it could not have been an accident.
I like the
Shortly
ones
before 10 in the
from
morning, Washington time,
the Nile
the
a
news was
lot
passed
better.
on to President Johnson.
He was rather inclined to agree with my view was that it had to have been an intended attack.
And there's one from
Johnson's belief
Kenya
that the
that's
attack was
really good
deliberate
too.
is preserved in the minutes of a White House meeting the following day. Also present was the CIA Director, Richard Helms.
And I know that for the first 24 hours, the President was furious that something like this had gone on.
Whatever Johnson's inner circle thought privately, officially they accepted Israel's apologies and its explanation.
Everybody seemed to be a little appalled at the Israelis. But this was not reflected in the public positions that the collective group had outside that room. And I think we were overprotective of the Israelis at that point.
I think the feeling was that the pressure, political pressure would be too much and they would just come to let it go. That in front of me would just go away. As a matter of fact, he said to me, standing in the cabinet room one day. Have you looked at the New York Times? The attack on that American ship is on page 29, where it should have been on the front page.
Yeah.
And I guess various people got at him and so forth, and he changed his mind. But, I don't think he changed his mind, he just changed his actions.
President Johnson's public stance allowed Israel also to cover up the attack. Israel has always maintained that it was a series of mistakes. None of the former fighter pilots would agree to speak, but one of the torpedo boat sailors gave us his account.
We were inexperienced at the time. We were probably a little trigger happy, and it was a war zone. No one should have been there, and anybody who is there is doing it at his own risk.
Israel admits the reconnaissance planes had identified the Liberty during the morning. The Air Force notified Naval HQ in Haifa, where the ship's position was marked on a combat information map. Later that morning, Navy HQ received reports of the Sinai coast being shelled from the sea, but by this time, say the Israelis, the Liberty had been erased from their naval map. When the patrol boats went to find the source of the alleged shelling, the only ship they found there was the Liberty. Then the patrol boats misread the mystery ship's speed on their radar. They thought it was making 28 knots, so could only be an enemy warship.
All military.
The way you do it is by taking the direction and distance from the radar to the target on the radar screen. And if you do it for a short period, for just several minutes, the differences in the speed can be fantastic. Anything between going backwards and 30 knots forward. So that's a very normal mistake.
And so the Air Force was summoned to catch the fast-moving target. Then, says Israel, the sailors made another fatal mistake, confusing the ship with the El Qusair, an Egyptian transport vessel half the Liberty's size.
It looked very similar to the El Qusair. There were some differences, and again, you have to remember that she had already been fired upon by the airplanes.
Do you want?
This was when word of the attack first reached the head of the Navy, who happened to be Udi Arel's father. He'd been at Haifa Harbor, out of radio contact, and had just got back to Navy HQ.
This is even worse now than what it was before.
Of course I was furious.
Worse now?
The minute she was torpedoed, and it was clear to me actually that she couldn't have made 28 knots. And so I actually immediately ordered definite identification. And then he reported that the flag was going up, was being hoisted. And then his first identification was Soviet. So my God. Come closer, I came closer, and he identified her as a ship.
Whatever the ship's identity, the Israelis vehemently denied that they'd ever fire at life rafts in the water.
I don't believe it. I never saw such a thing. There was nothing that was even resembling a life raft. And we certainly didn't shoot it.
We are taking part of the blame. Only part of the blame. We made most of the mistakes. They made many mistakes. On the spot, by the fact that the Liberty should not have been there.
But the evidence points to Israel knowing the ship's identity and wanting it sunk fast. This U.S. Air Force intelligence analyst was following radio intercepts of the attack.
The communications I had in my hands originated from an Israeli flight commander. Evidently, from his questioning to ground control, one can deduce that he had been given specific orders to attack that ship before he left the ground. And when he saw it was an American ship, he questioned those orders. And he questioned those orders to his ground control. That same
Still talking about the U.S.
conversation that I had in my hands specifically noted that the ground control said proceed with the attack, and there was still doubt in the Israeli pilot's mind. And he said, no, this is American, repeat those orders again. And he was told flat out, do attack this ship.
USS Liberty was an American ship.
Yeah.
That night was a very long night. I'm thinking at that point, I hope we don't sink. Because I knew the extent of the damage. I'd been down and taken a look at it, and I knew that we were in bad, bad shape. We had a lot of dead folks, a lot of gravely wounded folks on that ship, including the captain, who toward the end of the shift, or toward the end of the 15 hours, had regained consciousness and was sitting up in his chair, but not saying much, just sat.
Help was finally on its way. Ships from the 6th Fleet were steaming towards the Liberty and would reach her the next morning.
It was quite a sight to see so much of a flotilla there. The carriers. We looked and we said, God,
That's where all the nuclear bombs are.
where were you? Why didn't you come?
Oh, they put them on in Israel.
Everybody aboard the ship said the same thing.
The Liberty was now heading to Malta for emergency repairs. An important visitor was helicoptered aboard. Admiral Isaac Kidd was leading a naval inquiry into the attack. His behavior surprised the sailors.
I thought he was a very strange person because he took his scars off and walked around, tried to walk around like a regular guy. You know, everybody knew who he was. But I thought that was rather strange. I didn't buy into that one real easy.
He took his eagles off and he says, well, guys, he says, you just pretend that I'm one of you guys now. Tell me all about it. So they told what they seen in there, and after a while, he put his pins back on, and he says, I don't want you guys talking about this at all to anybody. Your shipmates don't be giving any interviews here when we're in Malta. He says, anything that has to be told, either through your division officer, through your captain, don't be talking to your family about it. I mean, he was very specific.
By this time, all the injured men had been taken aboard the rescue ships.
I remember being hauled up into that helicopter in a basket that had been wrapped tightly around me from head to toe. The corpsman, not knowing which end was up, sat on my head all the way back. And all I could think of was what an ignominious way to die after having survived a torpedo attack.
They took the wounded and the dead off and took them to the USS America, where we were then taken into their hospital area. That was when the Navy and the might of the United States Navy was really with us. Up until then, it hadn't been.